Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. This is To the Point. We have a lot to chat about today. A lot happened in the last couple days. This week, we'll be recording later in the afternoon. So that's just after today, will be later in the afternoon. I don't believe I'll have a show on Thursday, but there will be Tuesday, Wednesday, and we'll be back on Friday with our gambling show ahead of a UFC pay-per-view this weekend. So just stay tuned for all of that. That's what's forthcoming here on To the Point. I mean, the NHL is back and I'm really enjoying it. I think the way they've scheduled things has been a bit weird, but the games have been fun. You're seeing some great performances early in the season. We're going to dive into it today. You get a baseball game last night where pitchers actually went into the seventh inning, which in 2023 is so rare. It's like seeing a Sasquatch. It's the abominable snowman, and it's Loch Ness Monster. It never happens. But we saw it first time in the 2023 postseason. Both pitchers went into the seventh inning. Love that. Pitchers duel in Houston. But it was Sunday yesterday, which means that the NFL was on. And week 6 was the week on crack. That's what I'm calling yesterday. Did anybody play well that is considered a great team? After week 6, there are a bunch of teams that are 5-1 that I have little to no confidence in. The Kansas City Chiefs, I've talked about being worried about them. Their offense not clicking. Thursday night, they played just an ugly football game. And yet, the Kansas City Chiefs are 5-1. And they won the Super Bowl last year. And should I really doubt that team when there's others to doubt around them? After yesterday, you look around the landscape. The Dolphins, of the great teams in the NFL, because I believe the Dolphins are, the Dolphins lost to the Bills in Buffalo, but I believe the Dolphins are a better team. They were down 14-0 at one point to the Carolina Panthers, the worst team in the NFL. And yet, they comfortably won the game. Here's my gauge when you know a fan base is okay. My parents are Dolphins fans. I grew up a Dolphins fan. Normally, your team's the Dolphins down 14-0, the game's over. I'd receive a text or an expletive, and I'd have to say, yeah, you're probably right, or maybe they can come back, or I'd lie, or, something. I never got that text yesterday. Maybe my mother was busy. Maybe she didn't care about me. Unlikely. She cares too much. But I never got that text. And they went on to score, Tua did anyway, 35 points. And Raheem Mostert leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns. And he's averaging, after 6 weeks, the second most yards per carry in the history of the NFL. That's pretty good. And Tua's playing quite well, and Tyreek Hill and old Stephen Ross is doing the waddle dance in the box. It's a grand old time there at Hard Rock Stadium. You're down 14-0 to the worst team in football. And you won by 3 scores. You covered the number, and even Mike White went on a touchdown drive at the end of the game after throwing a pick 6. That's where the Dolphins are. We think, they're down 14-0. They're good. I didn't even think. I said, that's not going to be the upset today. Not the Panthers. Against that Dolphins offense. Offensive line held up. Tua had time to throw. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, Braxton Berrios. Not today. But that was a warning sign. Is this going to be the game? Is this going to be the upset of week 6? No. Wasn't. So you move on from that game. The Dolphins are 5-1. They got a game against the Eagles next weekend in Philadelphia. Sunday Night Football. Good game for once on a Sunday night. So let's go to Philadelphia, where they played the New York Jets at MetLife. The New York Jets were without their top 3 corners yesterday. Jaron Reed, concussion. Sauce Gardner, concussion. Thomas Hardy Sr., hamstring injury. You're without your top 3 corners, and you're playing the Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, and one of the best rushing attacks in football. And the best offensive line in football. And you have Zach Wilson at quarterback, and your offensive line is Elijah Vera Tucker's out for the season for the 2nd straight year, and Dwayne Brown's on IR, and Aaron Rodgers is using his healing crystal and going on Pat McAfee, but he's not playing, so you can't really say that's a positive thing. And yet the New York Jets defeated the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday. It's easy to say the New York Jets won this game because they forced 4 turnovers. I don't think that's the reason they won the game. 4-0 turnover margin. Sure. Jalen Hurts was god-awful. One of the worst games he's had as a pro. Absolutely. The New York Jets won that game yesterday because their defense, paired with an offense that tried to lose in the game at times, Zach Wilson holding onto the ball, taking sacks, kept hanging around. They stayed in the fight. They kept playing. Throughout the entire game, 14-9 at the half, then it's 14-12 at the end of the 3rd quarter, and you think you're going to be in field goal range and things are happening, but the Jets are controlling the clock. Their pass rushers are getting to Jalen Hurts. Eagles had some drops. Devontae Smith dropped 2 or 3. Dallas Goedert dropped 1. And I thought the Eagles got a little too high on their own supply. They got cocky. We need a 3rd down. We convert the 3rd down, we win the game. Jets don't have a timeout. We convert this 3rd down, the game's over. Let's throw a deep shot down the field. Why not just an under route? Why not do that? No, let's push the ball down the field, which Jalen Hurts had not been doing well all game long. And it's intercepted. Automatically in field goal range with the return. Doesn't matter. The Jets score a touchdown on the next play because the Eagles let them because they wanted the ball back. If you miss the 3rd down throw, you can punt the football. And the Eagles' defense had allowed 12 points at that point. They had not allowed a touchdown the entire game. Zach Wilson had been sacked 5 times. They were not running the football all that effectively. The Jets' offense, while not incompetent, was not spectacular at the same time. I don't think Zach Wilson played horrible yesterday. He's in tough circumstances. He's behind a bad offensive line. He makes some good throws, but also Garrett Wilson just makes incredible catches, which makes his quarterback look better. That's going to happen when you have a talent like Garrett. But they couldn't finish off a drive. Multiple times in the red zone, he can't find a pass, incomplete, kick a field goal. So the Eagles had a 3rd down to try to convert it. Had that opportunity. You could have ran the ball on a 3rd and 8, which, okay, you might not have converted it. But if you at least run, he tackles you, it drains time off the clock, less time. Zach Wilson, 2-minute drill, without any timeouts, okay, you need a field goal. Is he going to get there? I'm banking on my defense that was there the whole day. Jalen didn't have a good game. He's had a mediocre season to this point. I thought prior to these two Jets games, he played extremely well. He did not this week. I think sometimes as a coach, you need to realize the game that you're in. You need to realize what the player is giving you on a certain day. Last night, Dusty Baker and Bruce Bochy, two veteran skips, let their pitchers go into the seventh inning. Not every skip would do that. Not every baseball team is going to allow it. We don't let guys pitch into the seventh inning. It's just not something we do. Our analytic team said we got to pull him in the fourth. Sometimes it's a gut feeling. Sometimes you got Justin Verlander, who's got the second most postseason wins in league history. You let him pitch. Jordan Montgomery has been phenomenal in the postseason. You let him pitch. And he's dealing to the Astros. Jalen Hurts was not dealing. He was awful. Let's call a play, whether it's an under, two double slants, check down to your running back, or you run the football. They got too aggressive and too cocky in that situation. Because the rest of the game doesn't tell you the Eagles' offense is playing well. Because it wasn't. And credit the Jets with their backup four corners who went out there and played their ass off. And Robert Saleh is right. He says since that Cowboys game, we have made quarterbacks look awful. Mac Jones is awful all the time, so I'm not going to give him credit for that. But they went in and played Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson had a 11 QBR in the second half. Is that good? Or goes up to 100, the grade, just to put that into 11. I mean, I've got some bad test scores in my life. I've never gotten 11. Probably tried to get an 11, ended up with a 12, but I mean, it's not so good, right? Jalen Hurts yesterday didn't have a 50 QBR. Didn't have a good day. And the Eagles only ran the football 22 times and threw the football 45. Make that make sense. Eagles are 5-1. They remain one of the better teams in the NFC. Last night was a big deal for the Cowboys, who played the Eagles twice and already have a pair of losses. That helps them remain in the hunt for the NFC East. For the Jets, they got through the tough part of their schedule. Their first 6 games were murderer's row. With the Bills and the Cowboys and the Eagles, Broncos to some extent, and you're 3-3 without Aaron Rodgers. You will take that every day. Looking ahead for the Jets, they have a bye. Then they play the Giants. Chargers on a Monday night. Brandon Staley could screw himself out of a win. At the Raiders, very winnable. At the Bills, you could say that's a loss, but they've already beaten them. Host the Dolphins. Their division's tough. Host the Falcons. The Falcons. Host the Texans. Get to play the Patriots again. If they didn't lose to that Patriots game, they'd feel even better. They'd be 4-2. They'd be ahead of the Bills in the division. The Jets are interesting because they continue to find ways to win games. They are not a Super Bowl contender. They're not a legitimate threat. You might hear that today on different shows. They're not. Because Zach Wilson's not going to get them there, and a defense can only do so much. And there are teams in the AFC that are better. But what I view the Jets as a tough out for any team down the stretch. Those two matchups with the Dolphins, those won't be easy wins for the Dolphins. Play the Bills again. Bills already know it can be tricky. You play the best teams, you need to be aware that the Jets' defense is phenomenal. And if Zach Wilson could just not make stupid mistakes, which he didn't turn the ball over yesterday, but some of the sacks he takes 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage just kill you in second and third down, and you're punting the football or you're putting yourself out of field goal range. So the Jets are not a perfect team. But can they keep themselves in the fight long enough for Aaron Rodgers to return? Sounds crazy, blew out his Achilles. But he was on the field yesterday throwing. He's doing some new surgery, likely recommended from Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. Crystals and dolphin sounds and I don't know what else, darkness. But if it heals you, it heals you. Would he come back this year? I think he would. We got a long way to go here. It's only 6 weeks. But the Jets have life. I thought the Jets would be a playoff team before this season. Could they squeak in with Zach the entire year? I think it'd be like last year. 9-7. Be 10-7 now. 10-7 might get you in the AFC. Because there's some bad teams. Comparing the Jets and the Raiders, both at 3-3, the Jets are a better team than the Raiders. Raiders stink. They scored 20 points for the first time this season yesterday because the New England Patriots just hate screwing people out of bets. This is off topic slightly, but anybody else have Patriots +3 yesterday? And you'll lose that bet because of stupid Mac Jones taking a safety in the end zone? And I wasn't even that mad because my guy Max Crosby got the sack. But my God, when you have Patriots +3 and you know that team stinks and you lose the bet because of that, what a bad beat that was for yours truly yesterday. The Patriots stink. Stink. And I got the Bills and the Dolphins in the next 2 weeks. 2 losses. They'll be 1-7. But thank you, New England and Bill Belichick, for that. Eagles get the Dolphins. The NFL is a week-to-week sport. People forget about a bad loss rather quickly. They will be dunked on today. They'll be talked about. You'll talk about their warning signs and things you don't like about them. But they're also 5-1. And they're also in the Super Bowl last year. And you look around the NFC and you go, who am I really scared of here? What team do I fear for the Eagles? You think it'd be San Francisco. And they were a double-digit favorite yesterday in Cleveland, facing the Browns minus Deshaun Watson. The veteran P.J. Walker gets the start. And the Niners lose 2. They only put up 17 points. Scored 7 points the entire second half. I don't even know how to describe this game. Brock Purdy was awful. Awful in the second half. Couldn't complete a pass. No timing. Had no feel. The routes weren't good. His throws weren't good. The Browns were starting to hit him. Not to mention, San Francisco loses both Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey in the middle of the game. That's tough news. That's not good news. Deebo's looked worse than McCaffrey's, to be fair. But Purdy's horrible. You're not getting anything right. And San Francisco just felt like taking penalties yesterday. We got to hold every play. And it was something crazy yesterday. Their offense, Trent Williams, their best, I think the best left tackle in football, got hurt early in the game and he kept holding people and they kept calling him. Defense taking penalties, offense taking penalties. Trying to find the exact number here for you guys. Penalty yards, not something that comes up. But it was not a good game. They didn't put themselves in good situations. They kept making mistakes. Yesterday they took, here it is, 12 penalties for 105 yards. And here's something to notice. Week 1, 11 for 85, 6 for 57, 6 for 71, 6 for 45, 12 for 105. They've been a team taking a lot of penalties that we just haven't noticed because they win games. Yesterday they did not because Purdy was horrible. You're injured. You're not running the football well. Their defense kept them in the game. Fred Warner made some incredible plays. Nick Bosa with a late sack that I thought was going to seal the game. But Cleveland goes down the field, and Dustin Hopkins kicks the field goal to put them ahead. And I will say, credit to Brock Purdy. On that last drive, he put them in field goal range, and he did that drive extremely well. Big throws to Ayuk. Gutsy runs for him for first downs. But the penalties early, this game shouldn't have been close. San Francisco scored in their opening drive, touchdown. Then Fred Warner intercepts P.J. Walker. I thought the game's over then. They're going to start blowing them out. This one's going to be over. I got to find another game. It turned out to be the longest game of the day. Never ended. Penalty after penalty. Cleveland took a pile as well. In San Francisco, here's another thing. The last number of years, they had Robbie Gould as their place kicker. And he's one of the best kickers in the history of the NFL. They don't have Robbie Gould anymore. He hasn't officially retired, but he couldn't agree to terms with San Francisco, so he's currently a free agent. I'm sure teams around the league would love to have him. Maybe he just doesn't want to play anymore, which is fine. They drafted Jake Moody, kicker out of Michigan. They had a chance to win the game on a 50-plus yard field goal, which I'm not saying it's an easy field goal. But you expect your kicker to make it because that's his only job. He missed one to end the first half, Jake Moody. And he ends one to end the second half, to win the game. Robbie Gould makes that kick. Robbie Gould seals the win when San Francisco doesn't deserve to win it. That's another element San Francisco is missing on this team. But Cleveland, with PJ Walker, who was cut from the Panthers and cut from the Bears, goes in and beats the best team in football, quote unquote. And it puts Cleveland in a great situation because they're now 3-2. And Watson misses another game, but you beat San Francisco, the toughest game on your schedule, arguably. And you can keep moving forward. You can let him get healthy. He can come back. And you can go, wow, we just had our toughest game on our schedule. We won it. They're at the Colts next week, minus Anthony Richardson. I think that's a win. Go to Seattle. Tough game, but Seattle's offensive line didn't look all that good yesterday. San Francisco's still a good team. To be fair, this is Brock Purdy's worst game as a pro, and it's his first really bad game. He had never lost a start as an NFL starter. It's going to happen. He has a bad game. Mahomes did play well Thursday. He won the game. He escaped it. Jalen Hurts has had bad games. He's bounced back from them. It happens to everybody. I still believe in Brock Purdy. I still think he's great. People think that Mac Jones would be just as good as Brock Purdy in this offense. I think that's horseshit. Watch Mac Jones play. So I'm not giving up off him. Is he in the MVP conversation? Maybe not anymore after that game yesterday. It's a long season, however. They're still going to have a good record. They're still the team you don't want to see in the NFC because they have so many different ways that they can beat you. But the health of McCaffrey, the health of Deebo Samuel is paramount for this team. In particular, McCaffrey. Because he changes the offense. He changes the game plan of the defense, and you have to respect what he can do, or he will bury you alive. So it's a tough day at the office for the San Francisco 49ers. It's an awesome result for the Cleveland Browns, who did not expect to win that game yesterday. Puts them over 500, right back into the mix for the AFC North, pardon me. But for San Francisco, that offensive line needs to stop hold. They need to figure it out. The first and 20, first and 25, that kills you. You're not going to win games with that type of yardage to gain, which is what they faced a lot yesterday. But credit to Cleveland for gutting out that win, and great for PJ Walker to get that victory after probably thinking he wasn't going to be an NFL player this year after being cut in training camp by the Chicago Bears. Good on him. Then there's the Bills. Bills-Giants, Sunday Night Football. Giants are without 2/3 of their offensive line. They're without their starting quarterback. They're without some key defensive players. And the Bills should have lost. The Bills are lucky to escape with a win on multiple fronts. Last play of the game was pass interference. Should have been called. Absolutely PI. The refs did not. That happens. The refs are not always going to get everything right. Expecting refs to bail you out, not going to work. I think that's a recipe for failure, expecting the refs to do the job that you are expected to do. So I don't view that as something that was a robbery. It's very hard for me to view anything as a robbery when it comes to officials, other than maybe MMA, because it's so clear and you could dominate a round and you lose it. That's a whole other can of worms. But did the Giants lose the game on that play? No. No. Should have been called? Yes, you get another chance. They would have had to score a touchdown. No guarantee they score, because we saw what happened earlier. So at the very least, it would have been first and goal from the 1. Do they score? I'm not so sure. It's the Giants. Here's why I don't know. 9 seconds on the clock to end the first half. 9 seconds, Giants, no timeouts. They're near the goal line. They run a draw play to Saquon Barkley. A draw. He's stuffed. They can't get lined up at the line of scrimmage. Clock runs out. Ending the first half. With the Giants up 6-0 at that point. And an awful, awful game last night. Nothing appealing about it. So at the very least, you could have got a field goal in that moment. That's 9 points. The end of the game, let's see. The end of the game with 9. So to put you at 12, score a touchdown, something change, I don't know. Would have been different, for sure. Meaning you drive last night, maybe you don't need to win the game, but there's a whole lot of other scenarios. How can you run a draw with 9 seconds on the clock with no timeouts? Brian Daboll he has no hair already, but his face is just going to remain permanently red at the end of the year because he's so angry. He hates the team that he coaches. He hates them. He gets mad at Daniel Jones when he takes sacks, when he throws an interception. Tyrod Taylor runs a draw. Football 101, you have to run a pass play there because you need to have the ability to stop the clock. Throw it out of bounds, stops the clock. You can kick a field goal. They decide, no, we're going to run a draw. We think we can score because we're so competent on offense, the New York Giants. They still have not scored an offensive touchdown in the first half, and it's been 6 games. So Tyrod Taylor is going to be the man to do it last night. Yeah, right. It was so stupid. That whole game was full of stupidity. The Bills' decisions on third downs, plays that they're making. Josh Allen throws. He played awful last night. Thank God for hockey games and baseball, because that was not worth the watch. Thank God for a pitching duel. Because these two New York teams stunk it up. Giants are 1-5. They're done. Done. I don't know where they go from here. Because they're a bad football team with a below average quarterback who's paid like an elite quarterback. Way to go. They don't have a whole lot of talent. Their offensive game plan sucks. And their defense is okay, but it's not elite. They played a team last night that was stupid in the Buffalo Bills. 1-5 after 6 weeks. and the team in your same building who don't have their starting quarterback, who are banged up all over the place, who might even have a worse offensive line than the Giants, which is hard to believe, have a 3-3 record. You are the worst team in New York. A distinction nobody wants because they've been playing bad football in New York for a long time. Enough of the Giants on prime time. We've seen them enough. Flex them out, please. I'm looking up the next couple weeks. No Giants, please. Good. They're not scheduled for a while. Week 11, nothing. Nothing for the Giants primetime through week 12. Couldn't be happier about that because they shouldn't be, because they stink. But it's easy to think, well, the Giants need a new quarterback, which they do. And I said that last year when they gave him the big contract. Why not just franchise tag him? Why not just franchise tag him and see how this year goes? And if he plays well, you keep him. You sign him long term. If he doesn't, you can move off of him for nothing and draft a new quarterback that's probably better than Daniel Jones. But no, we can't sign Saquon long term. Let's sign Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, who's nothing without Saquon Barkley. So the Giants can look themselves in the mirror and go, we need a new quarterback, we need this, we need a better offensive line, which they do. We need better skill position players, which they do. The Giants would be criticized more for the players that they have on offense if the Patriots weren't so bad. But they both have 1-5 records. And they both just play ugly, ugly football. They can't gain yards. They slop it up, and their defense can keep them in games at times. I think the Giants, who were a playoff team last year, was in the mix. They're 1-5 with the likes of Chicago, and Carolina, and Arizona. You're with that group. These 1-5 teams, the Denver Broncos and the Giants are in the worst positions of those 1-5 teams because you have contracts to quarterbacks that are so large it makes you scream. No team's going to trade for that contract. It's going to be so difficult to get rid of it. The guaranteed money left on that deal. 3 years for Daniel Jones after this one. 5 for Russell Wilson. The Patriots can look in the mirror and say, we stink, which they do. But they don't have Mac Jones signed long term. He'll be going into his 4th season next year. He's paid like a rookie, just normal structure. You can decline his 5th-year option going into next season. Draft your guy this spring. Move off of Mac Jones and move into the future. Now, is Bill Belichick choosing that quarterback? You know my answer on that. Robert Kraft going to Vegas yesterday and losing to his old quarterbacks, plural, porn star Jimmy till he was hurt, and Brian Hoyer in Vegas, and his former offensive coordinator and Josh McDaniels losing to that team, who only put up 21 points and you still lost to them. And seeing Jacoby Myers catch the game-winning touchdown for the Vegas. When you could have had him, but you had Juju Smith-Schuster, who was inactive yesterday because of an injury. This will be a story the whole year. I'm going to keep talking about it because I find it fascinating. Bill Belichick should be fired at the end of the year as general manager, at the very least. He wants to stay on as coach. He likely won't because he won't like to not have the power. Okay, then you're gone. Things happen. It's pro sports. Robert Kraft's not getting any younger. 6 Super Bowls, I don't give a shit. You can't coach this team. You can't pick the players. The Giants have more talent than us. The Arizona Cardinals are 1-5, but the Arizona Cardinals are a better team than the Patriots, at the very least. The Cardinals have some talent. They're 1-5. They lose games. Josh Dobbs is not a perfect quarterback, but Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore, Marco Wilson, Zach Ertz. They have some guys that can play ball. James Conner, when he's healthy, they can play. Patriots on offense, other than Kendrick Bourne, there's no receiver I would want on my roster. And they lucked into Kendrick Bourne. Denver is more talented than the Patriots. And New England losing that game, I thought they'd win. They host the Bills. They go to Miami. Then the Patriots host the Commanders. Host the Colts in Germany. Bye week. How many games are they winning there? Host at the Giants. My God. Attendance of that game will be low. Host the Chargers. At the Steelers. They're going to be a 2-3 win team at the end of the year, the Patriots. And I don't know how much longer Mac Jones is going to be the starting quarterback. Was he the problem yesterday? No. But he's not the solution either. He doesn't throw touchdowns. He turns the ball over. He's not a difference maker. And as you continue to lose games, they took Will Grier in from the Cincinnati Bengals practice squad. They signed him to the active roster. Played that last preseason game with the Cowboys. Has never really gotten a look at the NFL level. Makes some sense to play him. Maybe there's something there with Will Grier. Maybe he can be your backup quarterback of the future. Who knows when you draft one to replace Mac Jones. If you're Patriots fans, you probably think I hate you. I don't. Your team just sucks. Point blank. And you probably know it, too. Because you get to watch it every week. It's really frustrating when you have money on a shitty team and they screw you on a safety. That hurts. Hurts to your soul. Let's pivot to good teams. A quiet, great win yesterday where this team had no fear in the game of losing. They played smart, both sides of the football. Detroit Lions improved to 5-1. And technically, they off strength of schedule and they might be the number 1 rated team in the NFL just across the board because they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs are also 5-1. Detroit's offensive line is fantastic. Their defensive line got to Baker Mayfield all day. Didn't give him a whole lot of time to throw. First half, they only score 10 points, and they missed a field goal. But they have a different aura about this team. They were good last year. They're much better this year. Their draft class linebacker Jack Campbell, running back Jahmyr Gibbs, safety Brian Branch. The rookies are all playing. They're all fantastic, not to mention they got Jameson Williams back yesterday from suspension. He catches a touchdown in his first game back. So you have Amon St. Brown, who's a quiet superstar. Jameson Williams, who can take the top off the defense. Gibbs, Montgomery, 1-2 punch that can kill you. Josh Reynolds, who's Mr. Third Down. Just big catch, throw it to Josh Reynolds. He'll take a big hit to make a big play. And then you have Sam Laporta, who leads all tight ends in receiving yards, rookies or otherwise. The kid's a stud. He can do everything. He can block, run routes. Detroit traded TJ Hawkinson. I said, that's kind of crazy. TJ Hawkinson's great, which I think TJ Hawkinson is. But Sam Laporta fits what they want. And St. Brown had a huge day yesterday. He had 12 catches, but Laporta 4, Reynolds 3 for 50 yards, all on third down, by the way. Jameson Williams 2 for 53. They didn't run the ball well, but it didn't matter. Jared Goff's efficient, didn't turn the ball over, 2 touchdowns. You make it work. You keep Tampa to 6 points. Didn't score a touchdown the entire day. Couldn't cap off drives. That Detroit defense just was a wall. They're very good. You don't want to play them because they don't make a lot of mistakes. Jared Goff's so efficient. Their defense gets better week after week. They didn't have one of the best offensive linemen yesterday, and their offensive line was still great. As they go through the season, can they get to that level of San Francisco and Philadelphia? Because yes, they both have the same record. I have more confidence in Philly and San Francisco because I've seen them do it before. I've seen them play in big games. Detroit still hasn't been a playoff team. They're going to be this year. They're going to win the NFC North. But how do you keep building on this? David Montgomery left the game yesterday. Is he going to be okay? You love Jahmyr Gibbs, but he was also hurt. He didn't play yesterday. So with a quarterback like Jared Goff, having a strong run game is paramount. You need that to be successful. So those guys being healthy, being available are important to Detroit. But they're a team nobody wants to play. So many different options. So many situations where it's just a bad matchup for you on your side of the football. They're at the Ravens this coming Sunday, which is a fun matchup. Ravens played in London early. I think Lamar's played great this year. I love watching Lamar play. I thought he played really well yesterday. Threw a bad interception, but he was efficient. They ran the ball pretty well. But again, red zone, 4 red zone trips, 1 touchdown. Can't happen. You do that against Detroit, you're going to lose. Just point blank. Bateman's still frustrating because he should be a better player. He should have more explosive plays. I love Mark Andrews. I still believe the Ravens are a threat. In that AFC North, Cleveland's a tough out. Cincinnati played Seattle yesterday, which was a good game. Back and forth. Here's what I'll say about Cincinnati. Their defense, bend but don't break. 2 interceptions in the second half of Geno Smith. They sacked him 3 times. They only allowed 3 points, while Seattle's defense continued to get to Joe Burrow. But to me, Cincinnati is starting to look like Cincinnati again. They get back to 500 going into their bye week, which is a big deal for them. Joe Burrow only threw for 185, but I thought he had a good day. Jamar Chase had 5 catches in the first half, finished the game with 6, so you lost him a little bit there, but he didn't have a whole lot of time. A lot of these, there's no great team in the NFL. I believe the Bengals can continue to get better, and they're going to be dangerous when it gets down to crunch time. I believe the Bengals are better than the Steelers. The Browns are scary because I think the Browns, if Asshole is at quarterback and he finds his game, the Browns can be better than Cincinnati. The Browns can compete with anybody in the AFC, including the Kansas City Chiefs. But that's a tall task. To me, Kansas City is still at the top of the mountain because they've established themselves and they have the best player on this board. And you can look at the Chargers and squint and be like, I kind of like them, and look at the Browns and think, what if? But it's on a lot of these teams to show it consistently, and not a lot of teams have this year. I like the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins have the best offense in the NFL of any team. I still have question marks about that defense. I don't get a whole lot of confidence from beating Carolina with a rookie quarterback and just the worst team in football. You go play the Eagles. The Jets have the blueprint. They dominated Jalen Hurts, and they showed everybody that how you make him play awful. Can you go do it? With that Vic Fangio defense, can you establish something? Tell you, Jacksonville has won 3 in a row. They're quietly playing some good football. Nobody watched that game yesterday, Jags-Colts, because it's AFC South and nobody cares and no Anthony Richardson. Trevor Lawrence is playing good football. He's making smart decisions. They're clicking. And they're 4-2 after that slow start. Couple games in London, you come home, you have confidence, you look better. Travis Etienne, game breaker. Defense putting up points. They had 3 interceptions of Gardner Minshew yesterday. AFC South, they are still the team to beat. Still the team to beat. They're on a short week this week. They go to New Orleans. New Orleans. Another team, very disappointing. 3-3. They only put up 13 points against the Houston Texans. Houston, C.J. Stroud, another great performance. Threw his first interception. But he's so poised. Throws the ball so well. Smart decision maker. And Derek Carr threw the ball 50 times yesterday. And New Orleans led in time of possession. But the Houston defense, C.J. Stroud being efficient, 1 out. Houston's 3-3. In the mix in the AFC South. 2-4. The Colts are 3-3, so they got another 3-3 team. And the 2-4 Titans. Ryan Tannehill left the game, carted off yesterday. They have a bye, but we'll wait to hear the extent of his injury. Malik Willis came in relief. The Bears quarterback, Justin Fields, was also hurt yesterday. Reportedly, broke his thumb. Popped it back in, tried to play, but couldn't do it. They nearly came back and won that game with their backup quarterback. But of course, he throws an interception late, and the Bears lose, and they don't cover the spread against the Vikings. So the Bears are 1-5. And the Bears have a very good chance of having the first 2 picks in the draft. I thought they could go on a run, but it looks not likely now. And the Vikings and Kirk D. Cousins minus Justin Jefferson get a big victory on the road in Chi-Town. Looking ahead to next week, Lions, Ravens, as I mentioned, great game. It's a 2 o'clock game. Falcons, Buccaneers is interesting because the Falcons they're the Falcons. They find ways to lose. Desmond Ridder, one okay game, then he throws into just a shit game, which he did yesterday. 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on this. That's not good. That's not winning anything. Steelers, Rams, interesting game. 5 o'clock. Rams are 3-3. They just find ways to win. Cooper Kupp looks great. Packers, Broncos in Denver. Packers coming off a bye. Chargers at the Chiefs. There's your game of the week. Chargers on a short week against Chiefs. And you have Dolphins, Eagles, Sunday Night Football. So that's a pretty good little slate in week 7 coming up. Tonight, we get Chargers and the Cowboys in Los Angeles, meaning 90% of that crowd will be Cowboys fans. Cowboys are a 1.5 point home and road favorite tonight. Chargers haven't played in a minute. Been a hot minute for them. Now you come back and off a bye and you get to play on a Monday night. Austin Eckler returning for the Chargers. Cowboys should have their offensive line. You have storyline of Kellen Moore, former offensive coordinator, now the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. Dallas was awful against San Francisco. Now they get to bounce back. The Chargers have won 2 in a row after their disaster start. Justin Herbert is playing as good as anybody in the league at the quarterback position. Dak has not. I like Eckler being back. Herbert's fantastic. Cowboys have had his number in the past. But I'm rolling with the Chargers. Plus 1.5. I think they're going to win the game. I think it's going to be very close. Chargers have a solid offensive line. Herbert is better than Dak Prescott. They can run the football. They can pass. Kellen Moore is a better play caller than Mike McCarthy when it comes down to it in this new NFL. Cowboys are probably looking at smiling because the Eagles lost yesterday and they're happy about that. We're right back in the mix. And Micah Parsons might still be mad about Deebo Samuel and they might be laughing that San Francisco lost to Cleveland. Well, I don't think it's going to matter because I think the Cowboys are going to lose. Chargers improved to 2-2. The Cowboys fall to 3-3. The Chargers are pretty good. They're on the come up. Their coach is an idiot. But you have 2 coaches tonight that don't understand clock management, don't value it, don't look towards it. So it very well could come down to a coaching decision, which is scary on either end. But I think we're going to get an entertaining football game tonight in Los Angeles. Chargers plus 1.5. Some baseball news. The Miami Marlins general manager, Kim Ng, the first general manager in Major League Baseball history, declined her club option today to return to the Marlins. It was a team and a mutual option. She decided to say no, so she will not be returning. Interesting development because the Marlins made the playoffs. For the Marlins, it's either they win the World Series or they make the playoffs and go it early. They just never make it. This year they made it. Maybe she wanted more money. But you have a cheap organization. She could look at the situation and go, hey, I think I should be paid more. I got this team to the playoffs. I get we're a cheap-ass outfit here. But I guess not. So Kim Ang is gone from the organization. Last night, Rangers-Astros, Game 1 in Houston. Verlander, 6 2/3, 2 earned runs allowed. Jordan Montgomery, 6 1/3, scoreless for him. 2 veteran managers, 2 teams that know each other very well in the same division. And it was a battle. Astros had a lot of chances to get themselves on the board, to put themselves back in the game, but they didn't do it. They had 5 hits. Biggest opportunity in the 4th inning, bases loaded. Martin Maldonado, the number 9 hitter, struck out. Probably the worst guy to have at the plate at that moment. Verlander gave up a solo home run to Tavares, the number 9 hitter, for the Texas Rangers. Both teams didn't hit well run in scoring position, but pitching was great. Chapman actually had a good inning for the Rangers. The bullpen for the Texas Rangers did not give up a hit. Yordan Alvarez struck out 3 times. He hit into a double play. He had a brutal night. Altuve did not have a hit. He's batting under 200 for the postseason now. Tucker went 0 for 4. He's batting 111 in the postseason. This is why I trust the Rangers and why I picked the Rangers to win this series. Evan Carter went 1 for 4, but he got a walk last night and he scored a run. First run of the game. Big moment. Jonah Heim has 3 RBIs in the postseason. Had 1 last night. He's batting .250. Tavares is batting .333. Josh Jung is batting .391. He had a hit last night. Corey Seager's batting .400. Doesn't even matter that Marcus Semien has been a disaster at the plate in the postseason. This team is making up for it with so many other options. I think this is going to be a long series. Montgomery was fantastic. Here's the thing for Texas. They get Eovaldi today, who's been a machine in his first 2 starts. 14 innings, 2 earned runs. Framber Valdez was not so good for Houston in his first postseason outing. Texas wins today. The Houston Astros are in big, big trouble. Going back to Texas for 3. Big, big trouble. The Texas Rangers win today. It's not going to be a long series. It won't be. Because I don't think it's coming back to Houston if the Texas Rangers win today. Houston will get 1, but they're not winning 3 on the road. I don't think they're winning 2 on the road. Too difficult. You'll get Montgomery back up for one of those games, likely. And Christian Javier has been fantastic, 16 2/3 innings without giving up an earned run, but those streaks are meant to end at some point. Eovaldi's been fantastic. You shouldn't doubt him. I'm going to today. I think Houston wins today at home. Jordan Alvarez gets off the schneid. Fremper Valdez, you could argue is a better pitcher than Verlander at this point of his career, will have a good game. Evaldi will give up a couple, at least three earned runs. So not a horrible start, but he won't be as good as he has been. So I have it 1-1 going back to Texas. I thought Texas in 6 before the series started. It's funny because most people are leaning towards me. I saw the Fox pregame show with so much personality on that panel. Alex Rodriguez, who's got none. Ortiz, who can hardly speak English, but he's fine. And Derek Jeter, who... Be careful what I say here, because I know some friends of mine, some people in my life really love Derek Jeter. That bald head of his matches his personality. There's just nothing there. There's nothing really to look at. But good for Fox. He needs some big names. You throw those guys on there. I caught 2 minutes of it, so maybe it's great. For 2 minutes I saw, I wasn't all that entertained. But I think Poppy was the only one that picked the Houston Astros. A-Rod, Jeter are going with me picking the Texas Rangers. Game 1 tonight, Diamondbacks, Phillies, in Philadelphia. Feels like a minute since we've seen these teams play, because it has been. Zach Gallen, Zach Wheeler. Whew, what a pitching matchup. Both have been phenomenal. Game 2, you get Merrill Kelly, Aaron Nola. Not too shabby either. I do think the Diamondbacks have a chance. I think they'll play hard. They have nothing to lose, which is what they're preaching, and it's true. Maybe something happens for this team. Things go well. The Phillies lose their power at the plate. All a possibility. Nolan Carroll and Christian Walker and these young kids just continue to play good baseball. And I mean, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, these pitchers are just horses. They can do, maybe pitching wins the Diamondbacks this series, which it very well could. I'm going with the Phillies in 6 games. I just think their bats are too good. They get home field advantage, which when you're in Philadelphia and it's the playoffs, that is absolutely an advantage. It's just a different mentality that city has. This team's on a mission. I'm predicting a Texas-Philadelphia World Series. But I think both CSs are going to be a lot of fun. They're going to be dramatic, fun battles. But I do think the Phillies win Game 1 tonight with Zach Wheeler on the mound. What else happened this weekend? Save my hockey thoughts for the end, because we'll end the show with that. We also had college football this weekend. A lot of blowouts. Some games that, Syracuse, Florida State's win by 38. Michigan beats Indiana 52-7. Ohio State beats Purdue 41-7. Georgia crushes Vandy, although they covered. Utah beats Cal by 20. Oklahoma State upset over Kansas. That's interesting. Penn State wins 63-0 against UMass. That game shouldn't be allowed. Tennessee ekes one out over Texas A&M, which I did not see. I did predict that would happen. And for Tennessee, they're now 5-1. I don't think they're a good team at all. Their offense is not scary, but Texas A&M, another bad season. They're 4-3. Jimbo Fisher being paid a pile of money to lose these games. Game of the weekend was Washington and Oregon. In Washington, Penix versus Bo Nix, Heisman frontrunners. Bo Nix was fantastic. Penix was fantastic. Third quarter into the fourth, Oregon had 3 drives, 3 touchdowns. Washington had 3 and outs. They couldn't tackle. They kept picking up fourth down conversions. But Washington kept fighting back. Penix kept finding opportunities. 1:38 remaining. They get the ball down the field. He throws touchdown at the back of the end zone to Roman Adunze. 18-yard touchdown, just a complete dime. 1:38 left. Washington up 36-33. Oregon, that's lots of time. They get the ball. They drive down the field. My one criticism of Oregon on this drive, it felt like they were playing for the tie and not playing for the win. Not trying to win the game, just expecting the kicker to make it, which I would not expect in football, any kind, to expect a kicker to make it because I don't trust them. Camden Lewis comes on the field, and he misses the game-tying field goal. Washington beats Oregon. It leaps them to number 5 in the rankings, which I think is bullshit, quite frankly. They should be in the top 4. That's as impressive a win as you're going to see all year. Oregon is really, really good. Bo Nix did not turn the ball over. They played well the entire day. But yet Ohio State remains in the top 4, which Ohio State, okay, they beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame has 2 losses. Oregon has 1. And Oregon's in the top 10. But sure, let's keep Ohio State up there. Bullshit. Even Florida State, I'd put Washington above FSU, but they won't do that because they're a Pac-12 school. That's my reasoning. But Penix is number 1 in the Heisman rankings, no doubt about it. Washington should be a top 4 team. What they have left is doable. That's, for me, I look at this team, they can win. They can win out. I truly believe that. They host Arizona State this Saturday, who are not very good. Go to Stanford. Go to USC, which is a tough matchup on the road, but doable. At Oregon State, host Utah. They have some tough games, certainly. That Oregon State game might be even tougher than going to USC because that environment's very tough. Utah, if Cam Rising's ever healthy. But they could be a one-loss team. You win the Pac-12 title game, you're in. But they're a damn good team. You have USC, well, all year, their defense has sucked, well, ever since Lincoln Riley became a head coach. Caleb Williams gets intercepted 3 times. Really has his worst college game. They get nothing going. Sam Hartman, 2 touchdowns. Estime, 2 touchdowns on the ground. And Notre Dame wins 48-20 in South Bend. Did not see that coming. So USC picks up their first loss in embarrassing fashion. They drop to 18th. Behind Notre Dame, who has 2 losses, which is another weird ranking. But again, AP poll, thanks. North Carolina beats Miami. Impressive win for Drake May and Mac Brown and co. Just that Miami offensive line just imploded. They gave up 9 sacks. Van Dyke threw 2 interceptions, while Drake May threw 4 touchdowns, did not turn the ball over. Tez Walker, fresh off getting reinstated by the NCAA, 3 touchdown catches, 130 yards receiving. They were fantastic. They're up to number 10. Duke beat North Carolina State. Oregon State beats UCLA in a big win for them. And nice to see Air Force. Air Force undefeated. And now they're ranked 22. Cool story for them. College football slate coming up this week. You got some good ones. Penn State, Ohio State. Number 7 Penn State playing number 3 Ohio State. This is the game for Penn State to prove it. Are you one of these teams? Can you beat the best of the best? You've played nobody so far. There's games I think they've looked terrible. I think Ohio State's going to win that game. We'll talk about it later. UCF, Oklahoma. Tennessee at Alabama. Alabama only beat Arkansas by 3. Tennessee's not looked good all year. Tennessee beat Alabama in Tennessee last year. Who the hell knows? Iowa hosting Minnesota. Somewhat interesting. Iowa's 6-1. They're ranked. Their offense is putrid. But I took them this week as an underdog and they won. Thanks, Wisconsin. Let's see. Any other games that are good? Ole Miss, Auburn. It's a solid game. Duke, Florida State. Is Riley Leonard going to be available? That's the big question there. Because Duke is a good team. Florida State, good club as well. Utah at USC, Saturday night. Clemson at the University of Miami. So we got some good ones coming up this week in college football. NHL thoughts over the weekend. Biggest thing has to be Auston Matthews. 6 goals in 2 games. He looks like a new player. He looks like a guy that's got something to prove, like he's not so worried anymore. Sense of freedom. But the production he's putting, he's always around the puck. The Maple Leafs offense has looked fantastic through 2 games. William Nylander, another guy who's really popped for me in the first 2. I thought he was great again Saturday night. He's already up to 3 goals. Bertuzzi had a better game for the Maple Leafs. Jarnkrok finished with a couple points. He replaced Max Domi in the top 6. So the Leafs have looked good. Samsonov, not so great. But it's weird. But their best players have looked like their best players at this point. They're flying over the ice. They play Bedard tonight in Toronto. Joseph Woll makes his season debut. Bedard's got 3 points in 3 games. Should be fun. He's great. I love watching him. He can do it all. Chicago's played tough in their first 3 games. Played hard against Montreal and fought back. Played hard against Boston and beat Pittsburgh. So we'll see what they got in store for the Maple Leafs tonight. But the Maple Leafs have looked good. Defensively, they still got their issues, but their best players have been their best players. I have no life, so I watched Arizona, New Jersey Friday night, the entire game. 1 game again, but Logan Cooley and the Clayton Keller dynamic in Arizona can be interesting. Arizona could be a better team than even I thought they'd be. I think their power play is going to be very solid this year. Cooley's already an NHL player. He's really, really good, like I thought he'd be. His passing, he's smart. He knows where to be on the ice. He's already fitting in. He doesn't look out of place. A year older than Bedard, a year older than Fantilli, things of this nature. So they have some talent on Arizona that you wouldn't necessarily expect for a team like Arizona. Not to mention guys like Bukestad and Lawson Krause who can mix it up a little bit. I like the dynamic that they have there. Some talent, some brute force. So Arizona's a team to watch for me. Luke Hughes looked great in that game as well. He obviously was playing with Cooley at the World Juniors this time last year. He can do it all. But then times in that game, Dougie Hamilton was put back on the top power play unit. We talked about that last week. Dougie Hamilton's already got 3 goals in the season, so he's lighting it up. Ottawa Senators, 2-1, 2 wins over the weekend. Tarasenko's played very well. He's fitting in, making smart decisions, being kind of a setup man there. But you see him, Brady Tkachuk's got 4 goals already. Ottawa just looks like a team They forechecked really hard last night. In Tampa, it's tough to gauge because Tampa is without Vasilevsky, and they didn't have Stamkos last night, which is worrisome. And Hedman can only do so much. But they look like a team that's free, happy to be playing, just rejuvenated. Look around, you got Tim Stützle, Jake Sanderson's already. Chikrin's got a couple goals. He scored a couple Saturday afternoon. A good defense that can move the puck. You forecheck tough. They didn't give Tampa space last night, and they controlled the game. They dominated the game. Matt Tompkins, who was making his NHL debut, was the only reason it was close. Ottawa's 2-1. That's a good start. A solid first week. Needs to continue. Do not let your foot off the gas. They need that type of mentality the entire season. Don't start in December. Start now. Really solid opening week for them. They're playing the way you want them to be playing. Despite the fact that they don't have Josh Norris or Shane Pinto, which is still a debacle. I talked about Stamkos. I hope that he's okay, but I really hope Kirby Dach is okay. He was so good against the Maple Leafs on opening night, and he was playing pretty well against Chicago, his old team, on Saturday. And then he gets injured, takes a hit by Jared Tenorti, and he left the game. That's kind of been the story of his career. He can't stay in games. He can't stay on the ice. And he's an awesome player. And I thought he was better than, you can make an argument he's better than Matthews opening night. He was all over the ice. He was fantastic. Montreal is not going to be a good team, but you want him to be there. You want him to get better, have those reps, have a good season. Can't happen if he's not on the ice. I haven't heard anything yet. When I do, we'll talk about it here on the show. But I hope he's okay. But just brutal news for Montreal when I saw him leave. I'm like, ugh. Also, how about that Brock Faber for the Minnesota Wild? Whew, sheesh. Saturday night. Was he the best defenseman on the ice? Either team? You can make the argument. He was damn good, I'll tell you that. The rest of the team wasn't all that good. But that kid's fearless. Spent a lot of time in college, which is good. Comes out ready. He's 100%, he's just ready to play. Played 24 minutes. It was his second NHL game on Saturday night. And for my mother, he was a +3. But he had an assist. He's 21. 21 coming into the NHL. Not 18. He might not have been ready at 18. But he goes to college. He was a captain at the University of Minnesota. He won a NCAA championship. And now he's here. And you get to play with Kaprizov, who's incredibly dynamic. And you're playing with a team that's trying to win right away. You're playing with Matthew Boldy, who's another college guy. Minnesota had a rough night. They're a good team. Phil Gustafson didn't have his best game, but they'll be okay. Oilers lost again. That's a problem. Stuart Skinner was just as bad as Jack Campbell was in the opener. Casey DeSmith won them that game. Avs Sharks, I watched all of it. It's about 2 a.m. on Saturday. Mackenzie Blackwood had 52 saves. He was phenomenal. That game could have been 8-1. Colorado, first of all, San Jose sucks. They're worse than Arizona. They're worse than Montreal. They might rival Chicago, honestly. They're a bad team. But Colorado's good. Colorado's a good team. They got everything you'd want. They can move the puck. They're physical. They can shoot. It's just... Blackwood got San Jose a point. Good on him. First game with the team. Good sign of things to come. But Colorado, NHL, look out. Because he's a problem. Oh, and by the way, Kent Johnson played Saturday night for the Blue Jackets, if you didn't know. I wanted to talk about that. If you did, I predicted he would. He did. He got a point, by the way. So good on him, and good on another guy like David Juracek. First career NHL goal Saturday night against the New York Rangers. So big win for Columbus. We got 2 baseball games tonight. Monday Night Football, and we got 5 games in the NHL. Blackhawks, Leafs, Flames, Caps, Desert Dogs at the Mecca, Panthers, Devils, Red Wings, Blue Jackets. So should be a good Monday night of content. I'll be back on the airwaves tomorrow afternoon with the rest of you. Thank you for the continued support. Thank you for everything. Talk to you tomorrow. This is To The Point.